Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Q&A session with the World Business Council for Sustainable Developments, or WBCSD's, Redefining Value Program's directors on what is the program about and how it can help businesses to remain competitive, resilient, and contribute to the transition towards a world where more than 9 billion people are able to live well within planetary boundaries by 2050. My name is Johanna, and I'm joined by Rodney Irvin, Mario Abella, Joss Tantrum, Andy Beanland, and Lois Guthrie, covering a wide set of expertise areas between them. So without further ado, Rodney, you are the Managing Director of Redefining Value. Can you kick us off by explaining the mission of the program and how it came about?
Absolutely, Joanna, and hello, everybody. Redefining Value was established in 2014 after extensive membership consultation about what it is the WBCSD members wanted from what was then called the financial capital focus area. And we got very clear direction from our members, which was, please, can you help us understand the reporting landscape? And can you also help us integrate sustainability issues into the way in which we conduct our business? And that translated into what we now know as the Redefining Value Program, where we were focusing on business decision-making, external disclosure, and laterally helping our members integrate ESG principles into pension assets. So the program's been going for over 6 years. And during that time, we've been very fortunate to work with mainstream actors, as well as sustainability professionals, as well as our members, on the development of a suite of solutions that help integrate ESG or sustainability into core decision-making practices within the organization, such as risk management, integrated performance management, governance and internal oversight, as well as helping our members strive for purpose-driven disclosure. And we're now at a point in time where we're looking to the future, and the program will start to explore other new and exciting areas relating to the role of capitalism as we enter into the post-COVID era, and how do we ensure that businesses are acting with purpose and delivering outputs that not only generate returns for investors, but that they are creating positive returns for all appropriate stakeholders.
Thank you, Rodney. Now, turning over to Mario, what have been some of the major milestones?
Thanks, Johanna. Just to build on some of the points Rodney was raising there in terms of our theory of influence has been all about collaboration, and everything we do is done in collaboration with mainstream and sustainability actors. And it's really helped us to create some incredibly powerful frameworks, guidance, and tools. So, for example, on our risk work, we partnered with COSO. On our assurance work, we partnered with a number of accounting bodies and the global regulator, the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. And we've done this throughout by identifying who are the key mainstream actors and how can we influence these mainstream frameworks. So our work and the milestones that we've met are very much kind of fall into two groups. One is around improving business decision-making. And a lot of this has come out of discussions with members, research we've done, really to understand what are the core problems affecting business today. So understanding and managing relevant impacts and dependencies, and we've done a lot of work with the Capitals Coalition. We've done a tremendous amount of work on risk and helping companies to connect risk with their strategy and decision making to ensure the strategy can be achieved and thereby enhancing corporate performance. And the COSO guidance that WBCSD developed over several years in conjunction with COSO has been very well received in the marketplace. And the other point on improving decision making has been work on governance and looking at how boards can integrate sustainability into their decision making. And the other area is around strengthening disclosures. There's a lot of debate at the moment around disclosures and what should be the predominant framework. We haven't really entered into that debate. We've really helped provide ways of navigating through the issues. So we have the ESG disclosure handbook, the reporting exchange, and then we've done a lot of practical work around helping companies strengthen their internal controls. And then obviously the guidance of the IAASB has issued, which now has relevance in 170 member bodies, accounting bodies around the world in 130 countries. And then finally, better investor decision making and aligning retirement assets with the corporate objectives of companies.
Thanks, Mario. So clearly business-centered and actionable solutions. Rodney already touched a bit about this, but Joss, looking at the future, you've been working closely with member companies to define and shape the redefining value strategy going forward. Can you elaborate on this, the focus and how it will help businesses?
Certainly, thanks, Johanna. So I think it's worth sort of going back to the frame that you gave at the start of this video, where we're talking about the Vision 2050 goal for 9+ billion people to live well within planetary boundaries. And this ambitious, clear, simple to express, but perhaps slightly more challenging to achieve goal is really the frame for all of the work that we do. And what it means is that there is a strong and fundamental need for transition. Transition in business practice, but transition in the systems of value that support, to drive, reflect and reward business behavior and finance behavior. And this is really the context that our work that we're currently calling stakeholder capitalism focuses upon. And what we mean by stakeholder capitalism is a system that is connected to the delivery of long-term environmental, social and economic value, and the creation of and driving of more equitable and sustainable world, but is also one that is done within context, so that businesses' operations, businesses' aspirations, businesses' strategies, the business models that corporations use are all connected with their ability to sustain and create value across these dimensions of social, economic, and environmental performance over the long term. And within that context, the stakeholder capitalism work that we're doing falls down into sort of three different areas. One is a work stream, which is what we're calling a definitional work stream, to answer the question, what does stakeholder capitalism mean for business? We also have a work stream which is focused upon translating what that means for business into tools to support businesses to actually drive change within their organizations. And those tools orientate around how do we support companies in examining their purpose, their strategies, how they interpret social and environmental challenges and trends, and develop strategies and business models that are capable of sustaining them and delivering long-term environmental, social and economic value, and also elements around integration, as Mario was saying, into the key management processes that companies use. So how do we get sustainability to not just become an element of business practice, but becoming a defining and woven thread across all business practice?
Thank you, Joss. But still continuing with you, it seems like finance functions and CFOs play a crucial role. Can you tell us more about this area of work?
Absolutely. So finance and CFOs play a fundamental role because essentially, and particularly for listed companies, their connection with investors and how they express their performance whether it be across economic and social dimensions or environmental dimensions, to investors is fundamentally important, based upon the idea that if you can't find a value in something, then to some extent companies are going to struggle to put focus and resources into something that doesn't have either direct or indirect business benefits. So the role of the finance function and the CFO is absolutely critical, particularly when we're going back to the need for significant corporate transition in the context of Vision 2050, that understanding how the delivery of sustainability and sustainability performance is important to the financial success of a company, and how companies will understand what their internal investment and capital expenditure activities will need to be is absolutely critical. And we're finding that investors are increasingly asking more strategic questions of companies. What is your, not just what is your performance, but what is your strategy in response to big issues like climate change and nature loss, and wider questions that have come up with COVID, like inequality, like the resilience of supply chains. So the role of the CFO in understanding just how important sustainability is to the future financial viability of the company, and being comfortable and equipped to communicate that strategically to investors, is becoming more and more important.
Thank you, Jos. Now, building on that and pivoting just a bit, so regarding another important area that investors and stakeholders are following very closely is disclosure. Lois, you lead the work on the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, or TCFD. Why should companies care about this, as disclosure is only voluntary in most parts of the world?
Thank you, Johanna, and hello, everybody. Well, although the TCFD recommendations are voluntary, they were developed to help companies conform with existing mandatory requirements. So in many jurisdictions and for many companies, there's an existing legal requirement to disclose principal risks. And the TCFD's recommendations help companies conform with that requirement. And what we find is that although principally designed for disclosure, the TCFD recommendations on governance, strategy, risk, and metrics, they actually give companies a framework for acting, for thinking, for planning, for getting all the right colleagues together, for thinking about their business and how it's affected by climate change collectively. But of course, principally designed for disclosure, our companies, the companies we've dealt with, are at the cutting edge of sort of working out how to implement these disclosures. And I would encourage anybody to look at the Preparer Forum reports we've prepared. I think on average, each contains about 40 examples of how companies are implementing the TCFD recommendations. So there you have some practical how to help. So the final thing I'd say is that, of course, there's still a great deal of need for supporting infrastructure to help implementation of the TCFD recommendations. At Redefining Value, we've got a number of things that would help, some of which that have been mentioned. The COSO framework helps a lot with the risk aspects of climate disclosure. The ESG disclosure handbook can help with making judgments about what's the best way to proceed with disclosure. But also, we are working on a project to develop business relevant climate scenarios for companies operating in the energy system. And that's a contribution to all the activity that will go to support COP26. And we know that others are doing the same to support climate disclosure, including the International Financial Reporting Standards Foundation, the IFRS Foundation. So all of these activities should help to make TCFD disclosure successful.
Thank you, Lois. And addition to climate, broader ESG, so environmental, social, and governance reporting, is an important piece of the puzzle. Andy, can you elaborate on Redefining Value's flagship project, Reporting Matters, running now for its 9th year?
Yeah, that's right, Hannah, thank you. So Reporting Matters started back in 2013 with really a recognition of the vital role that sort of effective reporting could play in how companies manage and communicate their performance and value creation to a broad range of stakeholders, including investors. But our sort of position at the time was that reporting on these topics weren't always done in the most effective manner. And of course, one of the challenges there was that the sustainability reporting landscape, with an overwhelming number of requirements and guidance, wasn't making it any easier for companies. So the Reporting Matters project really seeks to improve the effectiveness of sustainability reporting of our member companies in a holistic way. We do this in several ways. We've got a comprehensive framework that we use to look at all our members' reports and how they apply key reporting principles such as materiality, completeness, conciseness. And we also then examine the alignment of the reported content across the criteria, so looking at strategy, targets, performance, etc. We also consider report experience, because disclosure that is difficult to navigate also reduces its effectiveness. And then each report is scored, and then comparisons applied across the whole sample, across sectors, across geographies. But this isn't a rating and ranking exercise. We only publish the top 10 reports alphabetically, and then feedback is provided to companies through confidential feedback sessions. Last year, we held more than 90 of these sessions, and the feedback that we're getting from members is they really value the personalized feedback and the benchmarking against best practices. We also obviously produce a annual report in October each year. This highlights kind of other examples of good practice and the latest trends in reporting across our membership. And we've observed over the last 8 years, last 8 iterations of Reporting Matters, that there's certainly been some improvement in the effectiveness of reporting. I think around 78% have improved their overall score since 2017. And then one really key indicator that we've noticed is that the time taken to produce sustainability ESG reports is starting to align much more with the financial reporting periods. In 2013, it was 6 months. This is now down to 4 months. And then 41% of the reports that we review now combine both financial and non-financial information. We've also seen that reporting is getting much more focused. Over a quarter of members have improved their score on our materiality criteria. And we've also observed that when the SDGs were first published, companies didn't know how to handle and how to report with them. But now 93% of our sample are prioritizing specific SDGs, and a third of those are really aligning their internal KPIs with the SDG indicators. So there's been good progress being made across the membership. We've just started the 2021 cycle of Reporting Matters, and we're looking forward to receiving and reviewing members' reports, and also supporting members in developing more effective reporting practices.
And to finish, Rodney, any last thoughts for companies on where to get started to remain competitive and contribute to the transition towards a 1.5-degree world and the Sustainable Development Goals?
Start implementing these processes now. Embrace TCFD, embrace better risk management practices, because I can assure you that your risk management practice did not predict COVID. So therefore, one would suggest you need to go away and look at it. Make sure that when you're making decisions that you understand the context within which that decision is made. And all of the tools that we have developed are there to support you, like the Social and Human Capital Protocol, the Natural Capital Protocol, the COSO guidance, and our work on decision-making with the AICPA and CIMA. Embrace stakeholder engagement. Remember, it is not a one-way conversation, it's a dialogue. Listen, and listening is a real art form. Listen to what stakeholders are telling you, but also make sure that stakeholders get your message. Just because the investor says he's not interested doesn't mean that they should not be given that information. People who have information cannot ignore it. So make sure that your information is investor grade, that it's robust, that it's free from material misstatement. And again, we're here to support on that journey. And finally, we are all working in the financial system as well as in sustainability. And many of us on this call are accountants, and we know that as professionals, we're not the most agile of individuals, nor is the profession as agile as one would expect it to be. It can take a very long time for an accounting standard to make it to the real world. But that doesn't mean that you can just sit back and wait. You need to advocate for the changes you want to see in this system. So please get involved in advocating for a better financial system, for better accounting, for accounting that meets the needs of the future generations and not just looking over our shoulder at what we did last year. Make sure that we embrace the environmental, social and governance challenges that are embedded in corporate governance. Making sure that your board members understand that their fiduciary duty includes environmental and social considerations. And then also make sure that when you've got all of this together, that you incentivize your workforce to go in the right direction. Good data means that management will pursue activities if they know that they're making progress. So it's all part of just doing better business. So, you know, at the WBCSD, across all of our programs, and especially in Redefining Value, we have solutions that are able to help you on your journey. So that's why we exist. So take advantage of all of the great work that's been done and tailor it to your needs. And let's make sure that by 2030, we have taken the lessons learned from 2020 and we're in a much better position.
Thanks, Rodney. That's really a great place to finish. And so to know more and to access all the free guidance documents, research and more, go to wbcsd.org or reach out to us at redefiningvalue@wbcsd.org. And so thank you all for your time today and also to the listeners.